This week, we're replacing the one thing that could bring our entire mast down. Welcome back to Escapade. Our standing rigging is 14 years old, and with a Pacific crossing ahead of us, that's a risk we're just not willing to take. Most sailors and even insurance companies recommend replacing your rigging every 10 years. Because even if it looks fine on the outside, there's no real way to see what's going on inside those wire strands. And when rigging fails, it usually fails without warning. We originally planned to do this whole job ourselves, but with our visa running out, we had to move fast. So we still got stuck in and did a big part of it on our own, but we also had some experienced riggers guiding us through it, teaching us the process and making sure everything was done right. So in this video, we're breaking down exactly what it takes to replace your rigging, how you can do it yourself, and how to make the whole process a lot less overwhelming. Let's get into it. Okay, we are measuring our existing rigging today so that we can do the order. Before we could even think about installing new rigging, the first step was getting accurate measurements of everything currently on the boat. A few weeks earlier in West Palm Beach, we went through and measured each stay individually.
So you want me to go to this shroud or whatever?
Just to the first one.
Yeah, okay.
While also identifying the exact swage fittings used at the top of every piece, since we'd be keeping those the same to match the mast attachments. We're just looking at the fittings here. It says 10mm on the one closer to the stern, nothing on that one.
Maybe take a video of the underneath if you can too.
The rod just goes through to that plate by the looks of it. We didn't actually know it at the time, but after looking through some info from Sailing Services Miami, we found out these are swaged stem ball fittings. They're swaged directly onto the wire and sit into a socket near the mast at the spreaders, allowing movement while keeping the load aligned. We didn't have a tape measure long enough for the job, so we improvised. We've got some Dyneema line here that we bought right before the Atlantic crossing. Running it alongside each stay, marking the exact pin-to-pin length and then measuring that line afterwards.
Do you want me to go from right at the top of where that goes into the flat little stud? Because it just goes up to that flat stud on the other side.
Yeah.
So just go up as far as I can to that.
Basically. You got that tight?
Yeah, well I do, but you'll need to pull it obviously from where my hand goes. It says not to stretch it, like don't winch it tight, but still have it like firm.
It's a simple method, but surprisingly accurate if you keep good tension on the line while marking.
Well, I think that was a very good way to do it. I know you're not going to get perfect measurements with it, but we didn't need perfect measurements as long as it's oversized.
For the new rigging, the plan was to use Staylok mechanical fittings on the bottom ends. These can be installed by hand without a hydraulic swaging tool, which makes them ideal for DIY installs. Because of that, we didn't need every stay to arrive at a perfect finished length. Instead, we ordered each wire slightly oversized, about 1 foot longer than our measurements, so we could fine-tune the final length during installation and cut each stay to fit exactly on the boat.
So this is the second spreader up. Same fitting as the ones below. Not sure if that's meant to be like that, but that's broken. Is that meant to be separated there? Block looks okay. Everything else that I can see looks okay.
The cap shroud was by far the hardest one to check. On our setup, it's inside the mast, which makes it really difficult to see or film. If you've got a similar setup, a small inspection camera would make life a lot easier.
Alright, we have done forestay and then the side ones, whatever they're called, and now we just got to do the backstay and then we are done. Woohoo! Yeah, so it feels good to have that done. We'll go through the photos and the videos that I took just so Jason knows what's going on. And then I guess we can like take some snapshots of any of the videos if we need to send that off with our order form just so they can see what we've currently got. Just to make sure that we've got it all correct, I guess.
One of the things that really made Sailing Services Miami stand out was the level of support they offer throughout the whole process. They connect you directly with a specialist who can guide you through taking accurate measurements, identifying the correct fittings, and making sure you're ordering the right materials for your specific setup. And it doesn't just stop there, they're also available to answer questions during the installation itself, which is a huge help when you're taking on a job like this. That support gave us a lot more confidence in tackling the rigging ourselves, knowing we had experienced guidance to fall back on if we needed it. So shout out to Tom Sharkey, who helped us out a load with the initial ordering process.
So we're just measuring all our rigging from the string. Well, it's done even now with all of our markings on a nice flat surface. All right, what are we up to?
Well, I've got to go back up the mast again, but Janae's got some really strong muscles, so she can pull me up pretty easily.
So we got this right angle drill kindly gifted to us from Johnny, who we met at Hammock Beach Marina. He used to do rigging, and I guess he's had it sitting on board and wanted it to go to good use. And yeah, so he kindly gave it to us, which is amazing because he knew we wanted to do our own rigging. So we've got this so that trips up and down the mast are going to be a lot easier now, or up specifically. And then we just had to buy a special bit that goes into the winch. And we just bought that on Amazon. So I think we got 2 pieces, which is great. So I don't even have to winch Jason manually up the mast now.
We gotta check the swage fitting at the top, what kind of fitting it is. The cap shrouds that go through the mast, we just don't know what it is. So that's the reason we're going up, how it's connected, but we'll soon find out, hopefully.
Yeah, and then that way we can finish our order form to get quotes.
Quotes, yeah. So the cap shrouds are the ones I'm not looking forward to. Everything else, rigging-wise, I feel like I've got my head around. But yeah, the cap shrouds are a bit, ugh.
You ready to go for a ride?
After getting back up the mast, Jace was able to figure out exactly what we needed for the cap shroud fitting. So with that, we finally had everything. All our measurements and all our fittings, and we were ready to place the order for our new rigging. Sailing Services made that process a lot easier, providing a clear standing rigging order form along with guidance on how to measure and exactly what information to include. With that done, we set sail for Miami, where we'd be taking on the install. And while we were there, we stopped in to visit Sailing Services Miami to meet the team, check out their workshop and get a behind the scenes look at where all of this comes together. They've been around for over 40 years, so it was pretty cool to see that kind of experience and history behind it all.
Poking the rigging in before, and it was like swaging it. Oh, you reckon?
We've got Scott from Sailing Services, Bryce from Rigworks.
The first step was removing all the cotter pins from the rigging screws, so we could start backing off tension on each stay. That allows the rigging to be safely disconnected and removed.
We've got to wait about half hour to an hour to get our rigging, so we're just going to do as much as we can. Next being just take the sail down, see how it's right in the middle. The foil itself has an S-bend on it. It's not too bad, but still. Oh, sorry.
Jason.
All right, I can start to bring it down in a sec.
There's our anchor. Right there. You're going up?
Yeah, just going up the mast and undoing where this attaches to the spreaders.
We decided to carry out the replacement with the mast still stepped, which meant installing the new rigging in stages. By removing and replacing one stay at a time, we keep the mast properly supported and in column, reducing the risk of any unwanted movement or instability. We started with the cap shrouds as they're one of the more difficult ones to remove and reinstall, mainly because on our boat the top fittings sit inside the mast. Of course, every setup is a little different. First, Jace removed the spreader end cap so the wire could be freed and pulled through the spreader tips.
Yeah, that should be good. Stop.
Then we sent him up the mast to remove the pin at the mast head, taking the load off by pulling both wires upward at the same time. But it wasn't exactly straightforward. The pin had seized in place after years of load and exposure, likely due to corrosion and the interaction between dissimilar metals. So we gave it a generous spray with Corrosion X and decided to let that soak in while we moved on to the rest of the rigging.
You guys won't have to worry about clearing customs out here.
Oh, our rigging delivery is here.
Hey, how are you guys?
Service.
Ah, that's service right here. Sailing service.
Nice.
Unfortunately, with our deeper keel, we couldn't get very far into the anchorage at Coconut Grove, so we ended up way out on the edge. It honestly felt like we were anchored in the middle of the ocean, even though it was super shallow. Hence the joke about not having to clear customs out here.
Business cards get lost, so you get a nice bag.
How good. It's like this has fittings in it or something, does it, as well? Thank you so much. Really appreciate
Sorry, I
it.
didn't have any beer in it.
We have the rigging in our hands. Oh, it's like an esky bag. How cool is that?
Oh no, it's a cooler.
Yeah. Yeah, we call it an esky in Australia. Ball stay.
When we drop the new wire, essentially it's going to be an end with no fitting.
Yep.
So we'll bring these up to one another.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to cut the wire.
Yep.
And with the wire hanging, we're going to attach our stud.
Right.
And then that'll be made and we can put that back together.
So you cut it. We obviously have to cut it beforehand. Yeah.
I'm going to set this kind of where I want it when it's finished.
Yep.
Otherwise it's going to be too long.
Cool.
Let's try the intermediates. What do you think?
The stem ball fittings on the intermediate and lower shrouds actually made those much easier to remove. With the load taken off, Bryce backed off the turnbuckle at the base to fully slacken the stay, while Jace double-checked from above that the wire could move freely.
It's tight, but it's coming.
All right. There's no going back once I cut this.
No, all good. Cut it away, mate.
Once we confirmed that, Bryce cut the lower fitting off the wire, which allowed Jace to pull the stay up and out through the spreader root fitting.
Okay.
Once each piece of old rigging was removed, we sent the new stay up the mast, this time with the new stem ball fitting already swaged onto the top end. To do that, we tied the wire onto a messenger line that was looped through the bosun's chair, so Jace could manually haul it up to him. From there, he fed the new stay back through the same spreader root fitting, starting with the raw end of the wire so it would run all the way back down to the deck. We also taped the cut end of the wire beforehand to keep the strands compact and prevent it from fraying or opening up as it passed through the fittings.
We've got one through. I've just got to get inside here to unscrew this little U-bolt thing, and we're just doing the other side now. The end cap's so brittle, it's like slightly cracked at the top here. Okay.
All right, ready for a break? Come down.
No, I'm ready to do the next ones.
Once the new stay was fed down to the deck, the next step was installing the Staylok fitting on the bottom end. The first thing we needed to do was get the final length cut exactly right. So we pulled the wire up to remove any slack and brought it down to the turnbuckle, making sure the turnbuckle was set around its midpoint to allow for adjustment later when tuning the rig.
All the way off. So like we're taking it off and we're gonna spin it onto those threads 2 rotations. So if somehow, for whatever reason, that this comes apart, you're not losing the turnbuckle. It'll stay on. This top wire will come off before the turnbuckle.
From there, we marked the wire and taped it at that point, both to show our cut line and to stop the strands from fraying. Before cutting anything, we double checked the measurement to make sure everything lined up perfectly, because once you cut, there's no going back. Then it was time to cut the wire to length.
How's it look?
That it has out.
Oh, perfect.
That's definitely a good investment, hey?
Oh, that's a great thing, yeah. Before you got that, we were using a cutoff,
Yeah, the grinder.
and this works so much better.
To assemble the Staylok fitting, the first step was sliding the terminal body onto the wire before doing anything else. From there, the outer strands are carefully opened up. We actually used a rubber thong to help separate them.
The thong is key, guys.
Most important tool.
Then the cone is inserted and everything is brought back together and tightened down to lock it in place.
Okay, rule of thumb is about the diameter of the inner core.
Okay.
6 out of the, yes.
So the inner core, you mean you've got in 3 mil, 4 mil here?
Yeah. About the width of that. Now, the only way you can really screw this up is if, and you don't want to screw it up now because we got no more to cut off. So you don't want to get one of these wires in this slot. Okay, so you got one in there now, so you want to make sure that you move it over.
The key here is making sure all the strands are evenly seated around the cone with none crossed over, and making sure no individual strand gets trapped or forced into the wrong groove. That way the fitting comes together properly and maintains its full strength under load.
Now, these are already lubed. They got this tough gel on.
Actually comes with it on there.
It does now, it used to.
Do people silicone the inside?
You don't put silicone in. You put boat life or something. Silicone rocks them out.
Right.
We're going to do that. We just want to
Put it together first.
Yeah.
And I usually run them when they start tightening up. I do them half a turn or so, and then back it up a little. Because if there's something wrong in there, you can feel it.
Right.
You back up.
Oh, they're really straightforward. I thought it was going to be so much more complex than that. That's the perfect Staylok. What would you call the inside bit?
So we have our nut and we have our wedge. So essentially under load, that wedge will never pull through the nut. So we don't have goop, but when we come back to do the head stay, we'll bring some. We'll take them apart and goop them.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Goof them.
The boat life,
You
right?
put boat life down in there.
Because otherwise water gets in here.
Yeah,
and it's no different than.
And you put enough in it comes out a little bit out of the top.
Once the fitting was fully assembled, all that was left to do was attach it to the turnbuckle and pin everything in place.
Send me down. We've got the lowers put in. Do you want to send me down, darling?
Yeah, no, you can get yourself down.
Yeah, stuff you. I think the main thing that gets everyone about rigging is, obviously, I didn't realise how much support it still had just with the forestay, the backstay and everything else.
From there, it's just a matter of repeating the same process for each stay as we work our way through the rig. Day one of installing our new rigging was done.
Thanks, brother.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you guys. Thanks so much.
I'll bring you jacket there.
All right, we've got Bryce back, day 2. We're taking off the forestay today. We're on the dock for about 3 or 4 hours, so hopefully we've got enough time to work on the forestay. We've just loosened off all the shrouds and the backstay, which brings the mast a little bit forward, so you're able to get the pin out of the top of the forestay. Otherwise, there'd be no way in hell you'd be able to get that pin out. So hopefully we can get that out, and fingers crossed we get the cap shrouds out.
Before we could remove the top pin at the masthead, we needed to first disconnect the furling system at the base. That meant removing it from the stem fitting so the forestay could move freely. Once that was done, it allowed us to go up the mast and safely remove the pin holding the forestay in place.
That's pretty cool. Like rock climbing. All right, forestay's coming down on dock. Wow.
We'll also be replacing our furling system today. It wasn't originally part of the plan, but ever since buying Escapade, we've noticed a slight S-bend in the foil. We actually had the forestay replaced a few years ago in Turkey, as we were told that a new stay and proper tension might straighten things out, but it never really fixed the issue. And ever since, furling the head sail has been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, how'd you go up there? Wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't easy. I was fighting the pin the whole time. And
Did you look at the pins inside the mast too while you're up there?
no, I mean, all that time was trying to get that pin out.
Yeah, hopefully they're not too hard, hey?
That's always the hardest part.
Yeah. This is the only bit that really needs to be done on the dock though, hey? Yeah.
These bearings are
Oh, okay, so I need a new one.
yeah, these bearings are, unless you rebuild it, but that's 3 weeks.
Yeah, okay, that solves it for everything. So I was really umming and ahhing about the furling system because we did want a turnbuckle down the bottom to be able to adjust it, and Bryce has made me feel a bit more comfortable saying the bearings were stuffed, sorry. Can't use that on camera, can you?
New curling line.
Oh, awesome.
We're doing the foil calculation right now.
Yeah, that's what we need to do.
So you're gonna take that and you're gonna hold it right in the center of the eye.
Okay.
That looks good. 51.6.
The next step was assembling the new furling system and making the necessary adjustments to ensure it was properly sized and set up for our rig.
All right, we have to line up this very similar so the sail sits at roughly the same height, because I don't want it to go any lower because it'll be hitting our safety lines, and we really need to know this measurement before cutting the foils. So we're going to keep it very similar. So we're going to go to pin 3, which is this one here, which is pretty much the same as what we had originally.
After working out the correct position for the furling drum, matching it to where it previously sat, they were able to determine the exact overall length needed for the system. With that measurement confirmed, it told them exactly how many foil sections to use and how much needed to be trimmed off the final piece. So now they're cutting the last section of foil to size, making sure everything lines up perfectly once it's assembled onto the forestay.
You're pretty quiet. Hey. See guys, this is why you need Bryce in your job. Look at that pinpoint accuracy. You've got all the tools, man. All the tools. I didn't even know that was a tool. I don't think I'm gonna have any problems furling, hey. So our previous foil extrusions were rivets, and these are screws. I guess they got screws here and then it's riveted on the other side.
Right.
And this is just such a nicer, easier system to...
Because you can undo it.
Yeah, if you
without
need
damaging
to.
it.
Obviously we're putting Loctite in there so these screws don't come out. Oh baby. That is so nice. Oh my gosh. I'm really excited for this.
So this guy goes on the, it's up here, goes on the top, and then there's 2 little screws here. So we have to measure and drill for those. Now, be very careful to not drill into the wire, okay? So before you do that, let's
Because it's bent a bit. So it might, because see it.
pull that cap out.
You can see.
Hold it one side.
Yeah, hold it one side, and then just to be careful.
Next up, it was time to measure and cut the new forestay. This is the wire that runs inside the foil.
So the center of that eye is the same. Perfect.
Then Jay's got to work installing the same Staylok fitting, following the exact process we showed yesterday. And this here is the boat life sealant, the goop they were talking about yesterday, used to seal and protect the fitting during assembly.
So they're just laying the old and the new up next to each other to measure. And then I think they're cutting down this, I believe.
So they've already adjusted the turnbuckles so they're kind of where they need to be for us to cut it down, I'm guessing?
Yes. 2/3 of the way open, that's where we want it to end when it's together.
Yeah. All right, we're nearly done. Yeah, we've just got to cut down the...
Cut these down, so we'll take them inside. They have a vise over here.
Finally, it was time to install the new forestay and furling system. And before calling it a day, we needed to cut up the old system to dispose of it. But it also gave us a great chance to see what was actually going on inside that foil.
Definitely not. There's a lot of things wrong with this system.
Look at this magic. calm before the craziness on a Saturday in Miami. Okay, we are gonna head into the dock where we are here at Key Biscayne. It is National Park, but I think it's like $8 for the day. At least there won't be so much weight going on in there. So all we've got left on the rigging is the backstay and the cap shrouds.
We decided to start with the cap shrouds today since they're the most difficult to remove. Hopefully once they're done, the rest should be smooth sailing.
How much? Is that enough?
We've just taken one of the cap shrouds out. I'm going to have to go back up to cut the other cap shroud. And we're bringing these two cap shrouds up at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, so the pin is in the top of the cap shrouds. Now we need to run them through the spreaders. So I'm just going to lower Jason to the next one. He's going to bring them through, then to the next one, and then back down to the bottom, I think.
All right, we've got Scott back on the boat.
Once the rigging was fed through the spreaders, it was just a repeat of the same Staylok installation process at the deck plate that we showed earlier.
All right, just the backstay to go. The tool started burning, so I don't know if it's stuffed, but I had to winch Jason up the last few meters and it was really hard. So I'm glad I haven't had to do that the whole time, that's for sure.
Here we go, lucky last, hey?
So what are you guys doing here when you do this?
Well, we're
Measuring point?
duplicating the old way.
Yep.
This one's a bit of a tricky one because we've got a stem ball at the top and then it goes to a bridle, a delta plate, and we have to do the Staylok up there. So I've taken all the tools with me to make the Staylok up there, attach it to the delta plate, and then we'll obviously get these two, which is the bridle, swung back out up there with me, and then I'll have to attach those and then obviously put the cotter pins in. Thanks for today, mate.
You're welcome.
We are so close to having our rigging done. It's really not that hard to do yourself. It's scary more than anything. Obviously, because you're taking off your intermediates and your cap shrouds and you're going up the top of the mast and it just doesn't feel safe up there. So that's what got me the most. It was a little bit scary. I also had lots of problems trying to get the pin out the mast. Every mast is different and I'm sure you're going to run into problems, but Sailing Services really helped us out. And if you do order through Sailing Services, you get guidance off Tom, and Scott really helped us out. He was an absolute legend. I think that was kind of a one-off for us, that Scott came out for us. We were so thankful he did though.
It's because we're in such a rush as well.
He's really taught us so much, and I hope we've kind of taught you guys a little bit about rigging anyway. But we're just on the last few stages now. We're just putting in the boat life into the Stayloks here, and then a bit of Loctite around the thread. So the boat life squeezes through the Staylok itself and it protects any water or salt water or anything getting inside the wire and rusting it out. All right, so we've just got all our shrouds pretty loose at the moment, which I was scared to do at the start, but it's completely fine just to have them a little bit loose and work on it. It makes the job so much easier. Obviously, with our boat, we had to loosen the intermediate and the cap shroud to get the caps off the spreaders. And I was going up the mast and I was completely fine. There was a little bit of wobble, but...
Do you have to have certain ones tight still? Obviously, you have to have the head stay tight, don't you?
Well, we had the lowers a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
And
so you don't just loosen all of them off.
Yeah, the forestay and the backstay was a little bit tight, but these are a game changer, these Staylok fittings too. If you're redoing your rigging, all you have to do is obviously measure your rigging, get it cut a foot longer than what you need, and obviously we've shown you how to put these on. They're very, very straightforward. Fill the cup up, and then that should spread through to the top. So put a couple of turns on it, and then some Loctite. There you go, you can see it squeezing through there. Might have put a little bit too much in that one, but that's okay. It's better more than less.
It off. Yeah.
And then tighten her up, not crazy tight. You just want 3 to 4 turns on the thread itself. You don't want to twist this one. You just want to twist the bottom.
Yeah, and make sure you only use the spanners on the little notches where you're supposed to.
Yeah. Another thing we decided to do was to upgrade our furling system, and we're really thankful we did. We weren't 100% sure if we really wanted to do this or not, but we got the original furling system down on the dock, and the bearings were completely shot inside the furler itself. Also, our head swivel was spinning oblong. Oblong? Oblong? It was spinning like awkwardly, very awkwardly. So the bearings were also really gone in this, and it was like hanging on by a thread. Why are you laughing at me? Oblong. Also, we had an S bend in the foil itself. We couldn't actually get the head stay out. We tried as hard as we could to get that head stay out. So
the actual rigging out of it.
The rigging itself, yes.
Out of the furling system.
So we are so thankful we got this, and I'm so excited to use this. It's supposed to be the bee's knees. Scott reckons it's the best of the best. So expensive upgrade, but much needed. All right, we've got Bryce back. He's gonna show us how to tension the rig properly.
So rig tuning, a loose gauge is always your best friend. Otherwise, you have to do something called the Selden folding ruler method, which we're not gonna touch today. So luckily, loose gauge will fly through this. Make sure we have the right cable diameter here, and we are going to essentially start from the top of the mast and work our way down. We're doing a top-down rig tune today. Let's jump into the caps. Before we start putting any tension on them, I want to tough gel them up. You're gonna take that tough gel, and there's a little brush there. A little goes a long way, but you'll take the little brush and you'll brush the threads. It's an anti-corrosion paste, and it helps because this stud is stainless, and the inside of this fitting, or the inside of this turnbuckle, is actually bronze, right? So 2 different metals.
Yes, yeah.
Over time, if you're not tuning and changing tension, they can actually seize up.
Yep.
So that's what that's helpful for.
Yeah. I knew the outside of this was chrome, but I didn't know inside was bronze, so.
Yep, that whole turnbuckle is bronze.
So that's actually really good to know.
It's just chrome plated, and that's, when we look at this, all we're seeing is that chrome plating coming off. But bronze will outlive the boat. They were using bronze in the 1970s for pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so brush it just a little bit on here and a little bit
on both sides, and then when we take up on this, if we need more, we can add more, but let's do like 10 mil here,
okay.
Right? Just where we're gonna take up on the threads.
See, it's all these little things that
you wouldn't have done yourself.
No, I wouldn't have done if I did it myself, no.
Fine tuning. Is this the neighbour's turnbuckle?
We're at 5.
And I always call this hopscotch, because essentially what we're doing is we're gonna be jumping back and forth. Yep. Because if we get out of sync, then we essentially have to start all the way over. So I'm way higher than you, I'm at 9. So what I'm going to do to even this out is I'm gonna take a full rotation and then half a rotation off, and I want you to add that to your side, okay? And then we'll see where we end up. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're hand tight, but right now the masthead is pulled to my side because I have more tension.
We're not going to show you a full step-by-step of the rigging tune, mainly because we didn't capture it properly. It turned into a pretty involved job and the boys were working all over the place trying to get everything dialed in. So filming it just didn't happen the way we planned. But what we can say is Bryce really knows his stuff and the difference in the rig now is huge.
Bryce is an absolute weapon. He's been running his company now for 3 years, I think. If you are down this way, give him a call if you're not confident about doing your rigging or scared of heights or whatever.
Yeah, you want someone else to do it for you.
He's really good, really knowledgeable.
And honestly, one of the biggest takeaways from this whole process is how much more approachable jobs like this can be, especially using Staylok rigging fittings. It's made the idea of working on your own rig a whole lot less intimidating. That said, it's still such an important part of the boat and making sure you're using the right gear and getting the right advice makes all the difference. That's where Sailing Services Miami has been huge for us. They've helped us source everything we needed and guided us through the process so we knew we were doing it properly. If you're looking at doing your own rigging or even just parts of it, we definitely recommend getting in touch with them and ordering through them. And a big thanks to Scott and Bryce as well, who helped us out massively along the way. Feeling a lot more confident in the rig now and one step closer to getting this boat ready for the Pacific. We'll see you next week.